I just am gonna run out of battery, so this might be weird, but I've got to find my battery. Work. I left a cord at my new office, and now I'm about ready to run out of power. Does that work? Yes, I think it does. Woo, cutting it close. Don't worry, guys. I got something for you. All right. All right. So sorry about that. Listen, I like it right when I went on live. I was about ready to stream. My power went off, or my power looked like it was going to die on my laptop because I'm in mobile. Good evening, Nate Bomberger, Smash the Party. Where's my little logo? Come on now, dog. Come on now, dog. Where is my logo? Where's my logo? Got no logo? See, look, this is you're already showing the signs of wear and tear from the new job, right? You're thinking, what? Well, I'm going to fix it live. Hold on a second. Boom. We're going to do that. We're going to studio mode. We're going to go to this one. All right, cool. And then we'll just go like, there we go. All right. So anyway, listen, welcome to Nightcap. Sorry, rough start. So look, I'm going to be quick tonight, I think, but I've got some good stuff. And part of it has to do with the fucking distraction we've been experiencing. I got in the fray, of course, the slap heard across the globe, whatever you want to call it. Not making a position statement tonight or anything like that. We've already gotten enough conflict with that whole thing. But it's kind of relevant to what I'm talking about because of the distractions that we're focused on and the crazy shit that we're going through. Essentially, with this media that controls the narrative of everything, you know, not just talking about your Facebook feed or your Twitter feed or anything. Like everybody's, you know, there's jokes about how much we're talking about it. But what's going on in the meantime? Like what's happening like real time? And so I made a post today talking about, you know, again, I'm not going to sit here and chastise anybody for jumping on the bandwagon. I was in there. I was in the mix. I was throwing some memes around. I got some meme lord cred. But the point I'm making is that that's a distraction. I got caught up in it, but I am kind of multitasking. I will say that. But I realized that everyone's feed is kind of. I actually started noticing that everybody was reposting memes from yesterday, and so there's this delayed wave of folks that weren't there when it happened or didn't watch it, and I didn't watch it. But then it just keeps coming, right? It just keeps coming in everything. I mean, stories and thought pieces and just blowing up, right? Meanwhile, I post a post about how there's 10 million children that are going to lose their free lunch, free breakfast. That's going to happen. And that was, you know, that's a huge story that could be kind of being discussed all over the place. It's not. We're talking about slaps. We're talking about crazy. And, you know, some crazy people made the argument that slaps aren't violent and all kinds of crazy shit, right? Meanwhile, 10 million people, children, are going to lose their free lunch and breakfast. And this is happening. And it's because Congress can't get their shit together. And of course, there's no pressure coming from any of the electorate or the folks, you know, us, the citizens, because we're focused on, you know, fighting over whether we're Team Rock or Team Jada or Team fucking Mitch McConnell, Team Turtle, whatever you want to call it. And so that kind of that instant like gratification. By the way, everyone's talking about the violence. We're humans. Like that violence. You know. I mean, I remember when the early days of the internet, when you know you had Rotten. I don't even know if it exists anymore. Rotten.com was like a big, you know, kind of scary place where just gore and crazy stuff. But it was getting hits. It was blowing up. People are attracted to violence. Whether you know, and again, I'm calling it violence, so chill. But it's something that was violent. You know, violence could be subjective, I guess you could say, because you could say that, you know, I think boxing might be a violence, but I think football's a violent sport. But, you know, someone might not say the same thing. But anyway, the point is, enough about the slap. The point is, that's the fucking point. It's a distraction. And so, you know, I made this post about this 10 million children. And essentially what it comes from is during COVID, when people weren't working, the government put up some money to say, hey, look, here's some free lunches. That's going to wear off. By the way, these are all side effects from electing a buffoon who said it was going to go away by Easter 2020. We found out shit got crazy in February, lockdown March. It's going to be gone by April. Nope, no strategy in play. Of course, now all the engines start to cook. I'm not blaming the 10 million. Like, this is a Trump era program, technically. Like, I'm just going to say it. That came about during the, and I think it's a great program. I mean, again, I don't have any kids. I did some preamble with my significant other discussing this kind of thing. And I said, what? She's like, what are you going to talk about? I'm like, this is what I'm going to talk about. It's so easy to talk about because it's like we're sitting here talking about things and distractions that mean nothing, and possibly watching rich people argue about whether or not they deserve an award based on whatever politics that you're playing out there. And so while that's happening, even the distraction of that, since it got some ratings, and by the way, it didn't get that great ratings, apparently, still not the greatest ratings, but the slap definitely pulled in its own fucking probably billions of hits. But the point is, like, that these real things are happening that aren't getting done, and there's no pressure because we're not spending time talking about it. We're talking about the nuance of, including yours truly, about the nuance between a slap and a hit, and the stance that you should take possibly, or how you should level them out, or whether it meant harm, all this stuff. And so, I start posting this, and of course people are like, what? Everyone's surprised, and people are like, and it actually got like a plus. So when you start posting things on Facebook, when you go to their analytics, you can see how things do and whether the content's right. And sometimes I post stuff that Facebook's like, this isn't going to work, but I'm posting it because it's true. But you get incentivized if you start looking at the analytics. And this post actually was like a plus something. It had significant positive distribution rating, whatever that is. I guess Facebook goes and says, you know what? We're going to decide this content's not good based on our algorithm, so we're just not going to pass it around. True story. That's really what it works. So, conservatives have an argument there. Anyway, so this is a positive net, positive share that's getting kind of a lot of feedback. So even when I talked about it, the fact that people are probably going to that and then Googling things, I don't know. Again, I don't know the black box algorithm. I can maybe reverse engineer some of the ideas that I would put into it, but I'm thinking that they know kind of you're going to search because Facebook pixels everywhere. So even when you go outside of Facebook, they're tracking you because other people, web developers, put the pixel in there because the pixel provides all this data, yada, 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 all this technical jumbo jumbo, which, by the way, don't forget I'm a fucking engineer, software engineer. But so this is happening, and this thing's like kind of kicking, and I'm looking at it, and I'm just like, it's because people are shocked. They're like, what do you mean? It doesn't make sense. And so, look at the articles, and it got so bad in Massachusetts that they actually were, petitioning the federal government to continue the program because people are going to starve. Now, you got to realize, now all of a sudden, you've got inflation, okay? You've got inflation, you've got gas prices, single mom. Now, all of a sudden, she's got to put up, her grocery bills are what? Some of the articles talk about doubling because groceries are expensive now, but she had that leeway of having this breakfast fund, and call it socialism, whatever you want to fucking call it. This is a school tax. This is where I want my tax dollars to go to. So this happens. There's not why there's not a larger outcry is kind of my point, and that is we're distracted, and meanwhile we're going to have this consequence from consequences. You see, they're layered. So we've got the consequences of the actual COVID pandemic still kind of filtering. We've got the consequences of the lies and deceit and distractions of not paying attention to anything that was going on, for a period of time during the Biden administration and trying to figure out. We've got these distractions where we're finding out that the chief of staff, by the way, these are distractions because real people are dying. They're not dying, but they're potentially going to starve or be impacted in ways that you and I may not understand. But maybe there are people watching this that do understand. Hopefully, because I'm telling you, those are the people I'm trying to advocate for in this case. And that is, we had a system that said, hey, look, you get a free breakfast, a free lunch. We're now in a situation, we've got war going on. We've got, you can say it's Biden's fault. You can blame anybody. Go ahead, do that shit, okay? Go ahead, do it on your feet or whatever. But maybe you should just think, all right, we've got this situation where there's going to be a large amount of Americans impacted by this. Talking about, it's going to end June 30th. next school year, I mean, they're basically going to be paying, double groceries because they have to feed their kid. They're going to send them to school with lunch and everything else. And so that may not make sense, or you're living in a certain school neighborhood or whatever. That doesn't fucking really matter to you, and you don't care. And it's like 10 million people. So what? I guess maybe you can come to that conclusion, but that's insane. 10 million children, like all of a sudden now losing their lunch and their breakfast, which is essentially the money that we put up in our school taxes and everything else. I mean, there's money. That should be a priority. I don't understand how that isn't just a no-brainer. Of course we're going to – you're telling me you're sending these kids to publicly funded schools and they can't get fucking breakfast and lunch? The hell? And they're there all day? And you're expecting parents to just pick that tab up based on mistakes that our government, essentially the administration, kind of set us up for failure by ignoring professionals, sowing doubt about the vaccine, sowing doubt about everything, claiming credit for the vaccine. These are all layers upon layers of consequences. And so now it comes down to brass tacks. By the way, do you remember the $1 trillion tax cut? We don't have any money. What does Ukraine need? I'm not suggesting we don't support Ukraine, but boom, billions of dollar check written out. We've now got American children that aren't going to have fucking something to eat. But now you want to sit here and fucking take my time up by arguing my position on whether or not Will Smith should have slapped him? I mean, that's what happened. Literally posted 0 memes today about this, but I just kept on taking inbox from friends, joking me and telling me this and blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to make a position where they needed to exude their position on me, which is fine, okay? I'll say it. There was a time in my life when I was pro-slap. But guess what? What the fuck does that mean when you got 10 million kids that don't have something to eat? And again, I don't have any kids. I'm just thinking, like, the world I live in, this greatest country in the world that has all this wealth, we're trading NFTs, which is an imaginary demand and supply, just like my Magic cards, quite frankly. But again, now it's kind of this thing where we've got all this ways to create wealth out of nothing. I mean, again, I have Magic cards, a little piece of cardboard worth thousands of dollars in my house. Not, by the way, I shouldn't say that. There's cards that are worth hundreds. The collection's worth thousands. So if you try to rob me, you're not gonna fucking be able to carry that shit out. But anyway, so the point I'm making is that, like, this wealth comes from demand, and so we just don't have this demand. You could build a whole virtual system on people buying stock in people's lunches. I mean, you literally, I know that sounds crazy, but by essentially wealth or the value of something is what we put into it or what we value. And so you can start to see we value material things. But we got kids here not eating. You could certainly come up with a creative system, a digital system that people now, and maybe this is the solution for future of taxes, where you're buying and you're investing in your community, like literally. You've now digitized the community. By the way, this is just coming up on the fly, but I didn't even think about this. But my point is, like, out of thin air, we create this wealth for different things and wars and whatever. There's side wealth and billions of people are making money that's kind of out of nowhere, virtual currency. But we can't figure out a way to, like, take that virtual stuff, that wealth, all the optimizations we come up with, and we've now got to argue about whether we're going to give fucking kids going to school at a public fucking funded place and not eating. I got no kids. I'm just telling you, like, this makes no sense. Makes no sense. And so you can tell kind of where, what is it? You can tell, what somebody's interested in by looking at their budget. Look at their bank account. Look what they're spending money on. Look at our bank account. What do we spend money on? We're going to now go through a summer full of debate on whether or not this should be funded. I mean, it should be. I hope I'm going to stand on I was fucking wrong pit, whatever that's called. I like to be on I told you so mountain. Maybe there's like the pit of shame where I'm completely wrong and look stupid. Okay, fine. You mean they fed 10 million kids and I look stupid? Okay, fine. Fair enough. The reason this is important is because it's layered consequences. I got into a little dialogue with a friend, and the point was made that how do rich people's riches affect other people? The poor and the meek is the words I used. How does that happen, right? Well, when you take out this central unit entity that we use called government, and you defund it, and the government provides service for other people, and you say, look, think of it like your fucking bank account. You say, look, you've got a job, and you're going to say to your spouse, you know what? You don't have to work anymore. Well, we can't afford it. Don't worry about it. We'll make cuts. So guess what? You then decide not to feed your children because those are the cuts because you want to be a conservative dumbass? This is really at its core why, and I don't understand why, but a lot of conservatives can't see the relationship between something like this happening and rich people aggregating yachts and everything. I don't understand. Some of these people have MBAs. Some of these people are extremely intelligent, but they can't see a connection between tax cuts, small government, this concept of small government, which essentially says don't fund the government, and yet make sure we cut, privatize everything, make everyone pay for everything. And we're sitting here in this capitalist system with failures after failures after failures. And now we've got to go beg a bunch of old people in Congress, maybe some young firebrand people on both sides of the aisle that speak too much or maybe not enough. And we've got to go back and wait for them. Again, this isn't me. Why the fuck do I care? The larger kind of meta level point is that these kind of things happen all the time. The war in Yemen that we're back. No one talks about. We're not in war right now. I mean, come on. It's going out the back door. We're funding it. We're selling it. Military industrial complex didn't shut down all of a sudden. We got to keep the war going on. I mean, it's silly, but these things are happening while we're just being distracted. And social media they know how to pull you in. They know how to keep you there. I mean, I'm hoping you just stuck to my fucking content all day, right? And that's the whole gist of the whole thing, right? I'm playing in the machine to be true. But what did I write there? Oh, that was I wrote about the inflation. I just want to make the comment that this is going to be a real world thing. I think it's going to be disastrous. Now all of a sudden the blame game comes. And so guess what's going to happen? The folks are going to come along that made the cuts, that made the tax cuts, and celebrate the failures of the Biden administration and the gloom and doom that's created from these problems that we have to fix with cash, with an influx of domestic spending. But guess what? That's tax and spend Biden. He wants to put the tax code back to where it was. I mean, I'm arguing go back to fucking pre-Reagan before he started fucking with shit. And if you don't know, you should. And conservatives celebrate Reagan naively. And a lot of folks that don't even make six figures celebrate Reagan like he's some god to them when he didn't give a fuck about you. But these are things that are layered upon layered upon layered. And so when people talk to me about the difference of the party, I look at kind of how we got here in certain things. One of the biggest transformations that happened in this country was the fucking New Deal. Where'd that come from? So these are the type of things you look at, and you can slam that and talk about how bad it was. I mean, millions of people were pulled out of poverty from a government initiation of all these programs and everything else. It's in this capitalist. That was America, by the way. He wasn't a fucking socialist. He was a capitalist. I mean, he may have been a socialist, but the point is he worked within the legality of this system to do this stuff, and it saved lives. I mean, basically, we're in a system that we have to patch up. And unfortunately, we're going to run into something over the summer where people are going to be arguing about whether or not to feed kids. And you're going to find people celebrating the fact that this is a failed program and it needs to be pulled because it's a lot of money. And there's going to be all kinds of arguments. I hope not. But I just don't have a lot of faith. And again, my pugs will be fat. They have this big bowl, this big fucking bucket, 5-gallon bucket full of food. And we give them little scoops because they would eat the whole thing. They'll be fat. That's my chillins, okay? That's my fur chillins. So, it's just to see the exclamation from folks after I post something like this, it just kind of shows you the glaze that we get on our eyes, including yours truly. And I hope I'm yours truly. So, how do you stop it? You got to put your phone down, number one. You put your phone in the iOS now has this thing where you can schedule. You can actually schedule your notifications. And if you turn your notifications on, maybe turn them off. but you can schedule them to come in and read them at a certain time. I mean, you don't have to pick up your phone and check out everything. Of course, you definitely want to turn on notifications for Smashing the Party. That's a no-brainer. That's where you get the fucking real shit. But, the larger, again, so kind of wrapping this whole thing up. I told you I wouldn't go long. And of course, I went, oh, no, I'm not. I'm still under 11 o'clock. So, these kind of things are frustrating when you kind of, while I'm posting on Facebook, contributing to the problem, admittedly, I'm also kind of doing this, reading, consuming as much as I can, staying on Twitter, the hellscape that is, trying to be funny, trying to attract attention to some of the things that I post, just like everyone else. And but you see kind of how this malaise can happen and where people just kind of go, oh, really? And I'm not suggesting that I am doing something extra. I'm in the game just like you. It's hard to stay focused on what you want to do with all the things that coming in, especially when you have ADHD like I do. So it's a whole fucking other animal. But, I think from a meta level, I've always been pretty good at staying focused at a high level and kind of looking at things from that viewpoint. And I see the writing on the wall is like, we're going to continue to pay for these layered mistakes. And we have a Congress that doesn't even see the humanity that's happening, the crisis in humanity that's happening right now to stop this. We don't have the electorate focused on it. People should be banging the phones, writing, stories about this, and more interviews with single moms, more interviews with people that don't have, not the people that are sitting in a wealthy neighborhood and aren't going to have a problem. Inflation probably helps them in some cases. That's what happens when you're rich. So, I think it's the only thing I would say is turn your phone off. Try to stay out of, I'm going to make a commitment to just, when something dumb like that happens, on my personal profile, I may switch that up. But even that, because I use that and I pass it around, I'm just going to try to wait it out and not ride the wave so that you can kind of see it from a holistic view. And it's going to probably, not be as interesting. But if something, a crisis like that happens, when we've got these larger crises, I call that a crisis, when an event happens like that, and we've got these larger issues that are happening, you kind of see why things don't change, and you see why people get jaded, and you see why the tribalness continues, and you see why people make arguments that aren't backed up with action that their party did. And this happens on both sides. You got to look at what the parties are talking about, what they're doing. There were tax cuts. Republicans passed these tax cuts, and they basically said, "Look, we're going to cut off a huge part of our revenue." And now we're going to have impact. Of course, they had to generate and print more money and do all that stuff. You can argue that. You can argue your monetary policy and how it affects people. Talking about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs right now. This is basic shit that we should be feeding the children here in this country. I mean, Jesus. So anyway, that sounded wheezy. Take a puff. Puff, puff, puff. As soon as I hear that wheeze, I'm like, I got to puff. All right. So listen, I'm going to wrap it up. I think I did a nice solid 25 minutes today. And, I'm going to be I'm going to be on fire, but this is going to take some getting used to. Next week's going to be the first week where I'm going to ease in. There might be some schedule changes based on how I want to, I really want to perform at this job. And I need to perform well so that I can continue to grow my nest egg as well as fund this venture, which, again, I said I'm in a good position because, assuming I can maintain my focus on my job, I'm going to be able, and by the way, I'm not worried about that. I just mean the biggest thing I'm worried about is I'm going to jump into my job and this is going to be half-assed. But I will tell you the reason why it's not is because this is so easy for me to talk about something that I care about that I typically don't do a whole lot of planning on what I say. And so that ability has I've gotten to the point where I now can kind of put it out in my brain, lay it out, make my core arguments, make sure I'm at least trying to be cohesive in the way I tell it. And I can do that within like 5-10 minutes. So the real trick is going to be to just get content and kind of keep abreast of everything because I'm going to be consumed engineering. But I'm not worried about getting on here and floundering. And I don't say that to be conceited. I just say it because I've kind of got this, cadence of how I do this, and I just kind of know how to roll with it. But anyway, telling you all this because not only, I really want to continue to speak for situations like this and kind of cut into the shitstorm that we're going through and say, look, stop, hold on, fuck it. Stop even commenting. I archived a bunch of posts that I made just because I'm like, look, I don't even want them in there. I actually went through for the first time, I think ever, I went through and just said, no more comments on these. This was yesterday, right after right when I started to see it was just getting ridiculous. I was like, all right, no more comments on these. And I forgot one. And of course, somebody commented on that one today. I forgot two, actually. I kind of wanted to keep the dialogue open, but I also was like, God, this is overbearing. I mean, it's like, all right, got it. Apologize, blah, blah, blah. So again, I want to continue to focus on stuff like this. I'm going to have to change my cadence, maybe the scheduling a little bit, depending on how this goes with my job. But they're flexible. The work is good. It's good. It's good. It's gonna be challenging, so it's gonna keep me focused. But they're also very flexible in as long as I'm working. It's different than contracting where I was doing before, which is I'm just working all the time. I got paid, I'm full time. There's an expected amount of hours to do an expected amount of production. So it's a whole different animal, in my opinion. And I'm excited actually to kind of have that type of job that has somewhat of a balance compared to the craziness I was in. So there's a lot of good things that are going to come from this. But again, just be flexible with me and understand that I may change the timing of when this happens depending on where my energy spots are. This was my energy spot when I don't have a full-time job. But it may be the top spot, maybe 9 o'clock. I might want to just bang it out at 8. And, I'll be running into primetime shit. But the whole point is just to continue to put this out there to make sure that I'm improving. This is the year of experimentation, as I said before. So, but you guys are great. And everybody that's watching, thank you again. I didn't have anybody buy anything today, but I had some really nice messages from some people just sending me some encouragement, and it was awesome. And so I want to thank them. And just, you guys are great. Again, I love doing this. Stop getting focused on the wrong shit, though. It happens to me. I know I fuck up a lot. I'm not perfect. I talked briefly about this role model idea. I think I have a minute or two. And I don't want to be I want people to look to me for action and kind of ideas, but I am not, some role model. And so I'm saying that because, that was a concept that I was trying to paint with the way we look at celebrity worship. Why is that important? Because I want to be like a kind of place where you can go and like kind of validate something. You can kick me messages. I always get back to people when they message me. Even people that don't agree with me message me all the time and argue with me and debate me and all that shit. I don't typically like to do that in a public forum because sometimes I'm nasty. I'd rather do it in private. But the point I'm trying to make is that this whole thing is going to continue regardless. Maybe some changes. You guys are awesome at the support, and I love it. And again, I can't say it enough that I love doing this. I came home literally from a friend's house tonight. I've been doing the cinematography thing. Had a quick conversation that inspired this content, but it was built on stuff I was working and reading and just kind of and observing kind of my little bubbles that I observe and kind of seeing people's reaction certainly is telling them where people's heads are at and how easy it is to be distracted. So that's what I got tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. I will be back tomorrow at 10:30. I start my new gig on Friday. Yay for me. Yay for me. Hooray. Was there? I don't have my thing on, do I? Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. All right. Anyway, so did I screw that up? I did. All right. I think you can hear me. All right. Anyway, so I will see you guys tomorrow at 10:30. And like, if you ever have things that you're thinking about that you want me to talk about or address, send me an inbox. I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to challenge myself. You know where the links are, smashtheparty.com/links. Check it out. Subscribe to my blog. There is going to be some blog posts coming out this week, so stay tuned. I promise. I'll see you tomorrow at 10:30. Peace. I'm out of here.